I am back. This is your man Warrior with another event. It is the credit heist. Now, I'm not going to actually talk about the credit heist. I'm going to talk about the team you need to build for the credit heist. I'm going to talk specifically about Scoundrels. I've had a number of requests on Scoundrels. Kind of what are all the Scoundrels? Which ones would you farm and why? Now, I will tell you, I am probably the worst person to take advice from when it comes to Scoundrels. I will say do as I say, not as I do. My Scoundrel team sucks. It has. I just started focusing on making a Scoundrel team, and if I had to do it over, I would do it completely differently. I have a way different perspective of all the different characters, and again, this only became popular for me about a month ago, and I started to develop, and of course the only real character I've got developed is Lando Calrissian, and he's definitely a Scoundrel I will recommend. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this video going through every single Scoundrel, because there's like 13 Scoundrels in the game. By the way, there is a massive selection of Scoundrels. What I do want to do is just go briefly over the Scoundrels that I would not recommend and why quickly, but tell you what they're about basically, and then I'll go into my top 5. I actually have a top 5, and there's 2 tied for the 5th slot, and there's a reason for that, so I'll get into that. So there's basically a top 6, but really there's only 5 you need in the game, but if you do 6, that's okay. So honorable mentions, the 7 that I'm going to say that we should not go with. The first one is going to be Boba Fett. Let me see if I can find him. I know that I spent a little bit of time on him early on before I realized that he was a bit of a turd. So here's Boba Fett, and basically Boba Fett, his issue is a couple of things. One, he just doesn't work. The abilities that he has are just not efficient. He has an AoE that does not do much damage. The ability block that it applies doesn't work very well. He's over 1,000 purple to gear, and he has 6 raid gear parts, which is astronomical. So I would not recommend Boba Fett. Until they fix him, he's going to be one of the bottom of the barrels for me personally. So yeah, I wouldn't do Boba Fett. So let me go back and let me go into the next one that is an honorable mention, and this one's going to be all the way at the bottom, and I am going to say Han Solo. Now, if you are one of those individuals who are blessed enough to have a 5, 6, or 7-star Han Solo, you're going to tell me I'm an idiot. This is one of the best Scoundrels, and you would be correct. However, I am in one of the top leagues in the world, and I only have 73 of 145 shards because I just started with this league a little while ago, and it's going to take me a while as the bottom of the barrel on this team. I mean, I am one of the worst characters on this team. Everybody else is, way more powerful than I am, and so they've all got them unlocked. Most of them are 7-starred him. I mean, they're being generous by letting me score in the top 15, top 20 on the raids to try to get his shards up. I just don't do enough damage yet in the raids to really qualify for this. And the only way you get these shards is if your team is doing tier 7. Now, my team does a tier 7 raid in 10 minutes, and we do like 7 of those a week. But your league is probably not doing 7 raids a week. It's not doing 4 raids a week, and if they are, they're probably not heroic. And if they are, then you have this guy, and you know that you can use him in the raids. But because he's just kind of out of reach for the average free-to-play player, I'm going to put him kind of on the bottom of the barrel. The other thing with Han Solo is he takes almost 1,000 purples, and he takes 5 raid gear parts. That's a nightmare. If you have him, use him. If you don't have him, don't worry about him, okay? So that's another honorable mention, Han Solo right there. The next one I'm going to say that I'm definitely going to say do not do is going to be Mob Enforcer. I actually didn't even put him on my list of 13. Now, my Mob Enforcer is kind of high, and I don't know why. Where is Mob Enforcer? Right there. I got a lot of, you can see I didn't do the abilities really that much, and I don't have any mods on him. I don't really use him. Got a lot of stars when I got him unlocked in a Chromium pack early on. Tried to use him early on when I didn't know anything about Scoundrels and found out he is just one big fat turd, doesn't do anything. The abilities don't work well. Mob Enforcer's probably the singular worst character. The only thing going for Mob Enforcer is you can farm him pretty quick, and he takes 2 raid gear parts, which is like the lowest of all of the Scoundrels, and only 580 purple parts. So he's like one of the easiest to farm. And yeah, I think it's a girl, actually. Looks to me a bit like the Mob Enforcer is a girl. I don't know. But yeah, it looks like a girl. Anyway, I'm going to tell you that this really makes the bottom of the barrel for, I mean, even worse than Boba Fett. Or the Han Solo, who's out of reach for most people. So do not do Mob Enforcer. And then the next one, I'm going to say, this one's going to ruffle a few feathers when I say this, but Newt Gunray. Now, I say Newt Gunray is fast. She gets stealth bonuses, and her thermal detonator, you know, thermal detonators suck in this game for the most part, don't work very well. Hers actually works very well, the most powerful thermal detonator in the game. But she takes 6 raid gear parts to max out, and she also takes 700 purples, and she conflicts with farming 2 other characters that you should get that are a higher priority. So she makes this list as who not to get, only for the part that there's going to be 2 other Scoundrels you'll want to farm before her, in the only place where you can farm her. So she'd be 3rd in line if you were looking at that, and by then you'll already have enough Scoundrels, you won't need her. The other thing is 6 raid gear parts. I mean, come on. Everyone I'm picking for my list is going to be a free-to-play character that you can farm in your time. You can get them, all of them, up to 7-star max geared relatively easily, and all of them are 3 raid gear parts or less, because I want you to be able to actually max these characters out. So Newt Gunray, while a phenomenal character all in all, very heavy hitter, stealth bonuses, and a thermal detonator that actually makes thermal detonators look cool, I will still put her on the bottom of the list and say I would not use her. Another runner-up is going to be someone, again, it's going to ruffle a few feathers because I know a lot of people got this guy early on and they like him, is Greedo. Greedo! He gets lots of extra attacks. He can attack a 2nd time on his basic, you know, if he crits. He's a little easier to farm as far as the raid gear. He's 2 raid gear, but he's 970 purples. And again, he's in the squad arena with Newt Gunray. He's competing for the same farming that you're going to use to get the other characters who are better than Greedo. So while Newt Gunray and Greedo are great characters overall, I mean, they're good, solid Scoundrels, they are just not going to make the list because there's other characters that are easier to farm, easier to gear, and have a much better toolkit, a toolkit being their attacks and their abilities. So I'm going to say no to Greedo. And then it comes down to 2 others that I will say no to. And one of them you're going to say, well, why in the heck are you saying no when you have her so high? And that's Zam Wesell. Now you can see I haven't spent a lot of time on her. I mean, I've geared her up to gear level 7. I put, I think, her abilities to 3 and a couple of mediocre mods on her. And really, I did that just so I'd have another Scoundrel. She was a 7-star. I unlocked her. And so she's got a pretty good toolkit, but the reason why she makes the list of don't use, she is good. She's like Han Solo. If you have him, you use him. If you have Zam, use her. She's great. She has a good toolkit. She can instantly detonate thermal detonators that are put on the opponent. She can do, you know, evasion down. She gets evasion herself. She'll get turn meter from evasion. I mean, she's got a great toolkit. So the problem with her is she's a Chromium exclusive, and right now, at this moment, I went and looked to see if she was even in the Chromium packs, and she wasn't even showing up in the Chromium packs, which tells me she's not even currently available in the game right now. So I'm just not going to say this would be a great character for free-to-play. It'd be a horrible character. You'd have to spend a lot of actual real money. She will, I am sure, make her way to a place where you can farm her, and down the road, when you can farm her, she'll be great. She's only 3 raid gear parts and about 790 purples, which is a little high, but not nearly as bad as some of these other characters. And she has a great kit against her, Greedo, and Newt Gunray. Great characters, I think, all in all, but I would not use them right now just due to the fact of availability and the ability to get them. And then the last one that makes the list that just recently was added is going to be the Grimoire Guard. Now, again, this may ruffle a few feathers because Grimoire Guard is a brute. He is awesome. He's a pretty cool character with a pretty cool kit, but He competes with farming Rey, and he also competes with if you're going to farm Dengar. And so he makes the lower on the list because of that. And while he's a pretty good tank, he's a solid tank, there are other tanks in the Scoundrel arena that are easier to and faster to farm, and you don't need 3 and 4 Scoundrel tanks. You just need 1 or 2. And so while he is a pretty cool cat, he's extremely difficult to farm. And so because of that, he does make the runner-up list. He is okay to gear, sort of. He's got 4 raid gear parts and 860 purples. He does do damage over time. He has a counter ability when he taunts. It's just, there's a lot of cool things in his kit. So him, Zam Wesell, Han Solo, Greedo, Newt Gunray, all great characters, and I'm sure you'll say, wow, I wish I could have had those. If you have these characters and for some reason you farmed them early on, for whatever reason you thought this guy looked cool, use him. He's got a great kit. What I'm talking about is the character who's new, starting, or is like me, totally messed up on their Scoundrel team and wants to make it right and get the right Scoundrel team in there. Then I will suggest that none of those characters I just mentioned are utilized. Now, on to the top 5, and there's actually 6 total that I'm going to talk about, but there's a tie for the last place in this character set. So the first character I'm going to talk about, actually the 2 characters I'm going to talk about, will be a tie, Dengar and the Clone Wars Chewbacca. So the reason why they're a tie in my book is they're both kind of expensive to gear. They're the most expensive on this set that I've suggested at over 1,000. Clone Wars Chewbacca is at 1,090 purples and 1 raid gear, and Dengar is at over 10,000 or over 1,000. Sorry, not 10,000. That's nuts. He's over 1,000 purples and 3 raid gear. And I just unlocked Dengar. You have to go for Rey. I think early on, that's at least what a lot of us did. We farmed for Rey, unlocked her, got her to 7 stars, and now I have the ability to farm for other characters, and Dengar is really the next character. Now, that brings me to, where do you get Dengar? You get him in the guild shipments. So if you go there, currently it says no locations found, but where you'll normally find him, if he's available, is going to be the guild store. And right here, I'm buying Jawa Engineer currently, trying to get Jawa Engineer up, and Jawa Engineer has one of the worst drop rates in here, so you got to get him when you can. And of course, there's Rey, which I got first. So I did Rey, Jawa Engineer, and I unlocked Dengar because I'm going to do him next after I get Jawa Engineer up. But that's where you're going to find your Dengar. Now, the other one is Clone Wars Chewbacca. I've got him here. I don't even have him to gear 7. I really do need to get him to gear 7. I have his basic abilities up, his abilities and attacks up mediocre at only 3, and some crappy mods. I just don't spend a lot of time on my Scoundrels. I want them to make me money, but then I don't spend any time on them. I spend too much time on other characters, and you only have so much you can do. So Clone Wars Chewbacca and Dengar are a tie for me, and this is why Chewbacca, you get him right off the get. So he kind of has an advantage over Dengar right off the bat because he doesn't have to compete with anyone. You can also do Cantina battles early on, and in Cantina battles you can farm over and over and over and over. There's no like 3 battle limit. And then of course he's also farmable in the light side and dark side battles in multiple spots, like 5 or 6 spots. So you can get Clone Wars Chewbacca 7-star really fast if you want him. You can gear him up relatively fast. He only has 1 raid gear part, which is like the best in every single Scoundrel that's out there. He's got the very best for the raid gear. You only need 1 piece and you're done. So, and you get him right off the bat. And so because of that, he makes the top 5 list. And he's an excellent character overall. He's a good tank. The coolest thing about Chewbacca is he's a self-healing. So he can do on his basic, the bowcaster, he's going to deal physical damage with a 55% chance to remove 50% turn meter when maxed. So that's pretty cool. He can remove turn meter half the time. Then he has a taunt. A taunt will go up to a couple of turns, and he can get a 30% chance of health up and he can get that for a couple of turns. Mine's not maxed out. That's why I'm reading out some of the higher stats that you can get him to. Defiant Roars, how he kind of self-heals. He can get up to 40% of his max health gained, and he can also give himself defense up for 3 turns, and then he can also give himself 25% chance to gain 25% turn meter. You can see that's the next thing that will be added if I was to apply that. And then the last one is his leadership ability, and I would not recommend him as your leader of your Scoundrels. He gives them plus 50 defense, and 50% of the time on their turn, they get a 50% chance to automatically gain defense up for 3 turns. So that's pretty cool because almost half the time or more, they're going to get defense up for 3 turns. He's just going to overall make your entire Scoundrel team more durable. And early on, if you don't have anybody else, you maybe only have at the beginning of the game in the first week or two, you only have 3 Scoundrels because that's all they've unlocked for you. This may be your leader in that moment, and if that's the case, then embrace him and use him as your leader, but he's not your long-term leader solution for sure. So he's tied with Dengar, and then Dengar, again, I don't have him up, and I would highly recommend him. The reason why he's tied for last place in my top 5 is he is hard to farm. The only place you can get him is in those the guild shipments. And, oh, by the way, Chewie's just over 106 speed and Dengar's 103 speed. So both of them are kind of slow. I mean, they're not under 100, but there's nothing special about 106 and 103. They're both kind of tanky. Chewbacca has 24,000 plus, and he's actually technically the highest powered character out the gate of anybody. And then Dengar is over 21,400 when maxed, and he's about almost 7,500 power when he's maxed, so that's all right. His abilities, of course, target spotted. He can, if the character's debuffed, he gets a 60% chance to call an assist on this hit, and this hit's a solid average hit, what an average character is going to do, but there's a 60% chance to call an assist, and that if he calls that assist, it's a guaranteed crit, which is guaranteed critical, which is pretty cool. The Blast and Smash is way awesome. It does about twice as much damage as his basic, and he has a 50% chance to inflict speed down for 3 turns, and 50% more turn meter if they're stunned. So it says if the target has 50% more turn meter or more, they get a chance to be stunned. Now that 75% chance goes up to just 100% chance. So that's pretty cool that he stuns them if they've got a lot of turn meter. So you can really direct him towards someone who's about to take a turn, and he'll stun them more than likely. And then his third is an AoE, Mini Mine Mayhem. This one's pretty cool. If there's negative status effects, it says if this attack scores at least 1 critical hit, inflict tenacity down. Now, what's cool about this one is if they have negative status effects, when he crits, if he does 1 crit, it adds tenacity down for 3 turns when this is maxed out. On 2, it will add damage over time for 3 turns, and on 3 crits, it will actually do a 50% turn meter reduction. So he can get turn meter reduction, which is pretty cool. And then the last one, Grizzled Veteran, he gets critical. Whenever he receives a critical hit, he goes stealth. So if he gets hit hard, he goes stealth for a couple of turns, which is pretty cool. And if they evade him, you can add this. Whenever an enemy evades his attacks, he gains turn meter. That turn meter goes from 20% all the way up to 60%, and he can get tenacity up for 2 turns if there's a negative status effect. So Dengar's got a good kit. I wouldn't say he's probably, there's no leadership ability for him, so he's not going to be your leader, so don't stick him in your leadership slot. By the way, tip of the day, do not put somebody in a leadership slot in your game on any area of the game if they don't have a leadership ability. That sounds like an obvious. However, that is not obvious to everybody. I go against teams even still at level 80 where they have the wrong person in the leadership slot who has no leadership ability. So make sure you've got somebody in the leadership slot, that first slot, that's actually going to do something for your team. So Dengar and Chewbacca tied for the 5th spot. Dengar, a little harder to farm in guild shipments, and Clone War Chewbacca, easy as hell to farm. Only 1 raid gear part, decent kit, but on the high end of farm. Both of them over 1,000 purples. That's nuts. Number 4, CAD Bane. Now, CAD Bane is an awesome character that I personally did not know about, and I was discouraged from getting CAD Bane early on in the game. Now, the reason why is because evidently CAD Bane was broken a few months back, and they did recently rework him, and through the rework, it sounds like his abilities are working properly, and they upped his damage 25%, which is pretty cool. Now, the reason why from here on out I'm going to suggest the people I'm suggesting is because I want you to be able to farm all 5 of your Scoundrel at the same time. So if you notice, Clone Wars Chewbacca, you can farm from your light side and dark side battles. Dengar, you can farm him from your guild shipments. And CAD Bane, you can farm him from your Galactic War shipments. So you go to the Galactic War shipments, and he's on the top left. He's actually one of the next ones I'm going to start farming. I think he's pretty cool. I think he's going to be a good addition to my Scoundrel team. He definitely needs to make his way up and replace one of my other crappier characters that I'm currently using. But I want you to be able to farm 5 quality characters at the same exact time. That's my strategy to max a team out, is to focus on them, level all your characters up, get them to 7-star, get them to at least gear 7 or 8, and then you have a solid team for that particular type of characters. So CAD Bane, let's see if we go back to CAD Bane, is number 4 on the list, and he's pretty easy to farm the Galactic War shipments. You know, you can farm somebody lightning fast there. He's 3 raid gear parts, which is average, and he's 880 purples, which is high, but not nearly as high as Dengar or Clone Wars. He has about a 7,700 power when he's done, and his speed's a little faster than the last 2 characters at 107. He is a bit squishy. What I mean by that is he's less than 12,000 power, and that's pretty rough. So this is one of those guys you definitely are going to want to have modded up and add protection on the bottom left circle mod. Give him a big ol' 24% protection boost. Give him a little bit of health. Make sure that you put mods on him and really max this character out if you're going to have. Now, he is a bit of a specialty character. His basic attack is a powerful attack. He's got the 2nd most powerful basic attack of all of the Scoundrels in the game, and he has a 55% chance on his gunslinger to, I know it says on mine with a 25% chance to attack again, but for him it can max out to a 55% chance to attack again and a 50% chance to get 15% turn meter. So if this 55% attack again and the 50% turn meter both trigger on the same time, you could get up to 30% turn meter on his basic, and he'll shoot twice potentially. That's pretty awesome, and at like 5,000 base power, that is a powerful hit. I've seen people cracking double hits with 10 to 12,000 twice on his basic, so that's pretty amazing. I think this is definitely a cool character as far as if you like to do heavy damage. And Stun Glove is his special. It does have a cooldown. Now, it deals more damage than its basic, really heavy damage set. And this is called unavoidable physical damage. So it actually, from what I understand, actually removes any chance at all of dodging or evading. Those 2 abilities, evade and dodge, are for special and physical damages, and it removes the ability to evade. So it deals that unavoidable damage, and it stuns for a turn. So that's pretty cool. It doesn't say it stuns at 75% chance. It's just a stun. It stuns them, and then it also has the capability of doing 40% turn meter reduction. So that's pretty cool. And then it's 100% turn meter if they're a Jedi. So 40% if they're a regular person, or 100% turn meter if they're a Jedi when that's maxed out. So that's pretty cool that he takes away a turn from a Jedi if he hits them with his unavoidable damage. So when you're dealing with Obi-Wan and other individuals who are evading, such as Luminara, he's going to hit them no matter what and take away their turn. That's pretty awesome. Now, his leadership ability, Hunter's reflexes, again, I don't have him maxed out or anything. He is hardly up there for me, but he can give all Scoundrels 20% evasion and 25% turn meter whenever they're evaded. So that's pretty cool. He is a decent leader, but I am going to not recommend him as a leader on your team unless you do not have Lando. If you have Lando, he's your leader. If you don't have Lando, CAD Bane would make a great runner-up for a leader on your team. So definitely I would suggest CAD Bane as number 4 in the position, and those are his abilities. Jedi Hunter is a unique. It's pretty cool. He gets just a 35% critical chance and a 25 or 20% critical damage anytime that he's going against Jedi enemy. So he is a bit of a particular character specific against Jedi, but a lot of people using Obi-Wan. So he's a pretty cool character all the way around. And again, you definitely want to have him in your top 5. Because he's just a heavy hitter, and when you go in to earn your credits every 10 days or so, you're going to want somebody who can lay down a lot of damage quickly. So I would recommend him. Now, number 3 on the list is going to be someone that I've spent a little bit more time with in the last month. A little bit, and that is IG-88. He's number 3 on the list. Now, he is in a different place for farming, and that is the Squad Arena store. So you'll be farming him out of the Squad Arena store. Now, why he's number 3 and not number 2 is because number 2 is Stormtrooper Han, and he is farmed out of the Squad Arena store as well. And I highly recommend you get Stormtrooper Han unlocked and 7-starred and then move to IG-88. Unfortunately, these two characters are both highly important scoundrels. They were just recently added to the scoundrel list, and unfortunately you have to farm them out of the same spot. This is the only farming conflict that I have found in my entire list. Every other character you can farm simultaneously. These are the only 2 you can't farm simultaneously. So IG gets bumped out of the number 2 spot to the number 3 spot because Stormtrooper Han makes the number 2 spot. Now, IG-88, you will get him out of the Squad Arena store. He's got an average power of about 7,500. He's a little faster, again, at 121 speed, and he is the squishiest of all of them at only 10,800 power when he's maxed out. Now his mortal wound, which is pretty cool, does real heavy damage. He's actually the heaviest hitter on a basic that we have. He'll do up to about 5,000 base damage, which I've seen that go over 20,000, especially when he's critting. And then, of course, he has this goes up to 60% chance to inflict healing immunity, so that'll prevent them from healing. The only healer that could get around that is Barriss, and she's rare in most of these types of events where you'll end up using him. He has an AoE, which is rapid fire. This is pretty cool. Rapid fire is an AoE. It does average damage. It hits about as hard as most of the characters' basics, but it has a 55% chance of an ability block, which ability blocking is awesome in this game, preventing them from doing anything cool against you. And he has a 50% chance of defense down for 2 turns. So he has a great chance, 50% chance of doing both, 50-50 on the ability, 50-50 on the defense down. And so it's actually 55% on ability block. But anyway, rapid fire is pretty cool. And then his leadership ability, resourceful pursuer. He is a decent leader, but I would not suggest him be your leader unless, of course, you don't have Lando Calrissian. And if you don't have Lando, then I would suggest using IG-88 or CAD Bane as a secondary, depending upon who you have. He gives the whole team plus 20% critical chance, and if they crit, it'll end up doing damage over time effects. The damage over time effects are pretty cool if everybody's doing them, because they're all critting, because he's raising everybody's crit chance capability. So that's pretty cool. And then his aim adaptive algorithm, or his adaptive aim algorithm, is going to give him plus 45, him personally, just a plus 45%, critical damage. And it's going to go up to 20% more damage if they have any negative status effects on their body, on their character. So his unique's pretty cool because it raises up the amount of damage that he does by almost 50%. He's a solid droid, and a lot of people are going to do droid teams, so he can be used in multiple areas of the game, which is why he really makes the top 3. These top 3 characters are going to be used in at least 3 or 4 different spots in the game, and these 3 are all going to be must-haves for your team. So that's IG-88. He takes 3 raid gear parts, and he's 660. He's the best basically. Other than the raid gear of 3, he's the best to gear. He's the fastest to gear. You can see I only got him to gear 7, but I think I did that in like 2 days, trying just to get him up into the purple, so I had a little bit of shields on him. Now, one other thing that is good to note with him is he kind of self-heals, and so every character potentially has, if you come in here, what's called health steal, and some characters it's at 0, most characters it's at like 5. There are a few characters at 10, and the new character, the brand new character that's coming out that we're all unlocking, let me see, what is it called in the events? This guy, the Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. This guy, yeah, the Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. He actually has a 30% health steal, and nobody's on the internet talking about it. I don't know why. I think everybody's excited about the character, but one of the most exciting things for me is every time he hits, he's going to take 30% life back from the damage that he does. So that is huge. Definitely, I think the Scarif Rebel Pathfinder is going to be pretty awesome. But IG-88 has a 15%, which is one of the highest in the game for health steal. If you look right there, right below tenacity, you got health steal. So health steal is when he shoots and he does damage. He gets a percentage of the damage that he just did back as health, and a lot of characters do this. It's the little positive green number that shoots up every time that he shoots in a negative numbers go across the board of what damage he does. So IG-88's got health steal, so he's super squishy, but if he doesn't take ray sized damage, like ray hail smashing him, he's gonna survive. He's gonna do all right. He's gonna heal himself every time he shoots, and he's gonna do a great AoE, and he's got those increased critical chances and critical damages. So IG-88's a must-have. That's why he's in the top 3. And you heard me mention number 2. Number 2 on the list is Stormtrooper Han. I did just start focusing on him about 2.5 weeks ago. He's a great character. He takes 3 raid gear parts, which is average. He's 865 purples. That is a little high. His overall power is almost 8,000. His speed's even faster now at 126, which is getting into the decent starting speeds. And then he is a tank, but he's one of the squishier tanks at only about 16,000 power. You definitely want to beef him up with defense, health, and protection. Try and get him really beefed up as much as possible. Now his abilities are Wary Shot. Wary Shot's pretty cool. He'll do 3,500 base damage, which has a high damage variance. Now there's a couple of characters that say high damage variance, and what that means is that the game will give you kind of like lucky rolls where the damage may be his base, or it may vary up significantly higher, up to 3 times higher I've seen. And then of course he has a 55% chance to gain 35% turn meter, so that's pretty cool. And that's just his basic. Draw Fire is his taunt. It's one of 2 or 3. I think there's now 3 in the game that have a 3-turn taunt. This is the new character I believe is going to be a tank that has a 3-turn taunt. So there's only 3 of them in the game that I'm aware of that can taunt for 3 turns. And so yeah, he's one of them. 3 turns is a long time to taunt, really long time. And unless they have Sunfac or Qui-Gon Jinn, you're going to totally screw your team. And it says that all other allies gain 25% turn meter. That gets bumped up to 30% turn meter. And all other allies gain 20% turn meter when he's damaged. That's huge. So every time he's a tank and he's taunting, so everyone's hitting him. And every time somebody hits him, the entire team gets 20% turn meter, which means they get to go faster because he's taking damage. That's just absolutely crazy. I love this. This is why people love Stormtrooper Han. He's an absolute turn meter manipulator. His leadership ability isn't bad. It's solid, but I would not use him as a leader. Again, he's a secondary type leader. If you have him but don't have Lando, I would definitely use him. And all of his allies gain 25% defense. Now this goes up to 35 defense while above 50% health, and if they fall below 50% health, they'll get 35% offense. Again, mine's not leveled up, But that's great. He gives them defense early on, and if they start to lose, then they start to get, if they start to die out, then they get a lot more offense. So they kind of go out with a bang, stay in longer, and then go out with a bang. And then his unique, the bluff, is pretty cool. He'll get a 15% critical chance, and critical chance up +2 if he gets a critical hit. So it says he has a 25% chance to remove 20% turn meter from each enemy at the start of their turn. Which is crazy that he gets a 25% chance to remove that 30% turn meter from enemies. And then he has in addition, Han has a 25% chance to remove 5% turn meter, and that goes to 10% turn meter whenever each enemy is damaged. So this is absolutely huge, because he has just a quarter of the time, and he's got 5 characters he's going against. So a quarter of the time, he can remove 20% of the turn meter at the start of each of his turns. So when his turn kicks on, he's got a 25% chance of taking the turn meter out of each and every one of the characters on the other side. That's definitely turn meter manipulation at its finest. And then he also has a chance to remove that turn meter every single time they get when he is damaged, that he can remove turn meter. So he's just manipulating turn meter out the wazoo. He's also farmable in the Squad Arena store, just like IG-88, and I did not go in here, but I did want to show you. If you come in here, I'm doing Chief Nebbit. You can see I'm really focusing on my Jawa right now. There's Greedo, but you don't want to do him. So there's IG-88, but you want to do Stormtrooper Han first, get him maxed, and then move to IG-88 and start working on him. I did pause my IG-88 so I could do my Jawas, because I hear the Jawas are going to be the stuff. They're going to be the bee's knees when it comes to the new raid. So I'm working on Chief Nebbit. After I get Chief Nebbit up, then I'm going to go back to IG and finish him off. I've got him almost to 6-star. So you've got the top 5 currently with Dengar, Clone Wars, Chewbacca tied, CAD Bane in number 4, IG-88 number 3, and IG-88 usable in many areas of the game. Number 2, Stormtrooper Han, usable in many areas of the game. One of the most popular tanks in the entire game. And number 1, Lando Calrissian. Lando Calrissian is an amazing character. He is he is the singular best character in the entire game for being a scoundrel. He's one of the best scoundrels, if not the best scoundrel. You can see I have got him to 7-star. I've got him max geared, and I have all of his abilities except for his basic maxed out. His power's over 8,000 right now. He's got over 115 speed base, and he normally is kind of squishy at about 14,000 power, or 14,000 health, but I've got him to about 41,000 with all of the boosts on health and protection. So I've tried to make him just a little less squishy. And on Gambler's Shot, this is another one just like Stormtrooper Han's basic, where it has a high damage variance. This has a high damage variance, meaning he can do his base of about 4,300 all the way up to triple that, which is about 12,000, 13,000 on a basic shot's nuts. He gets plus 30% critical chance damage, which is awesome. Right now it says 25% chance of scoring a critical hit, but that's because I haven't omega'd it. His double down is really what he's known for, and him by himself can clear many different events and things. He is so strong. He will deal physical damage to all the characters, okay? So he deals damage to all the enemies if the attack scores more than 1 critical hit. So there's 5 characters, and you want to get at least 2 of them. So that is a 40% chance that you get a critical, right? 2 out of 5 is 40% chance. So all you have to do is get his critical chance above 40. And you're statistically going to do it every time. And mine is at 55%. Now, the other thing is he boosts his own critical chance up 15%. So at his 15% boost, I'm currently at a 70% chance of crit. A 70% chance of critical means that he's going to get a crit on 3 or 4 every single time, and sometimes all 5 of them. So this is going to work every single time. I rarely see it not work. Every single time, but he's going to do more than 1 critical hit, and because of that, his cooldown of 3 gets reset, and he gets to use it next turn and it will deal 100% more damage the next time, which is amazing. 100% more damage. Now, when I omega'd this, it added plus 15% additional damage. That is absolutely huge. Now, the reason why I use him as a leader is fast and loose. Scoundrel and Rebel allies gain 15% speed and 29% critical damage. That is absolutely huge. He's usable in multiple events. He's usable in the Scoundrel events and the Rebel events. He's awesome because he's both Scoundrel and Rebel, and he's usable in the attacker events, so he's absolutely awesome. And then, of course, his unique high roller is plus 15% critical chance, and he gains critical chance up for 2 turns anytime he scores a critical hit. So not only does this critical chance go up by 15% permanently, but every time he gets a crit, he gets critical chance up. It basically assures that the next time he hits, everybody gets critted. And he does critical damage, which is awesome. As far as farming him, you can farm him actually in Cantina, so it doesn't conflict with the Cantina store, because this is what you'll farm in Cantina, and nobody else have I said to farm in Cantina with the Scoundrels. So you can farm him in these 2 locations in Cantina, and the first one's Battle 1E, which you can unlock on the very first day of gameplay if you play long enough that first day. If not, within the first 3 days of playing, you can get to him, and then you can start to work on farming him. And so you can farm him up lightning fast. He is the best, and so I would highly recommend going with him. He takes 3 raid gear parts, and he has about 740 purples. That is a little on the high average side, but not horrible. And he's usable in absolutely every single area of the game. So anyway, this is a long video, so I wanted to cut it short, but I want to let you know, get Lando, get Stormtrooper Han, get IG-88, get CAD Bane, and then either get Dengar or use your Chewbacca that you already have. The other characters like Gamorrean Guard, Boba Fett, Nute Gunray, Han Solo, Sam Wessel, harder to get, and even if they're easier to get, they're extremely hard to gear. Nute Gunray and Boba Fett both had 6 raid gear parts. Han Solo had 5, and Han Solo is extremely hard to unlock. So stick with these guys. Use your Lando as your leader. If you don't have him yet, use a CAD Bane or a Stormtrooper Han or IG-88. But this team will take you into the future. It'll get you all of those credits that you need. As always, if you like this video, like it, subscribe. Make sure that you give me more suggestions down. I've got a ton of ideas and suggestions and videos, so I'm trying to do them as fast as I can. I hope that a lot of people benefit from this video. And as always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.